Frustrated that the trial for the man who murdered their relative was being postponed, a group of Pikeville men decided to take matters into their own hands. Harmon stopped at a gas station on Tiger Valley Road. While inside, his car exploded. He knew he was supposed to have been in that car. In order to protect his family, he moved into Ramona Hotel in Johnson City, Tennessee, and spent his nights there. Unfortunately, the men after his life were not aware of this.
We were going home late one night, and just past the school there's a curb and a pull-off place. There was a car there. So my dad said, "That looks like the toilets." Well, we went on home. 2 days later, the car exploded. Sonia, I was the same age as Sonia, the older kid. She was 9 and I was 9 too. And I went to school with her. And, but I was living that close. We knew just about everybody up and down the road at that time.
The Tollets had a lookout up there. They wanted to kill Arnold Gruge, but they didn't want to kill his family. They had a lookout up there to tell where Harmon Gruge was and whether his family was with him.
They had to have local help. The house that's right beside the house where that blew, the basement is exactly like that. The windows into the basement is about this big and about that long. They had to be closed in the wintertime, so somebody had to know that that window was unlocked. Then, now of course I don't know, I was walking home one time from school and there was a barn down there and there was a man in the loft of the barn. And he was looking up that way, and when he seen me, he got back in the hay. It was a hay loft. And he got back in the hay. Now that was shortly before the house exploded. Now I don't know if it's a connection, I don't know if it was some drunk in there, or if it was a connection, you know, but anyway, somebody was in the loft looking in that direction.
This person called them and says, the family is gone now. Harmon Gruge is home by himself.
On the night of January 7, 1938, Church, Calvin, Lester, White, Miller, Tollett, Lee Walker, and Ulysses Walling drove to the Gouge home on Lotus Avenue with murder on the agenda.
Okay, that was Isaac Simmerly built that there. And he was head of the Tweetsie Railroad. And right there is where White Tollett and Church Lester got out of the car and walked up the road to the Gouge house.
Church stuffed dynamite under each corner of the house and lit the fuse. At about 3:50 a.m., the house exploded. 9-year-old Sonia June, 8-year-old Lorene, and 6-year-old Roma Jean Gouge were killed in the blast.
We lived about a half a mile by road, about a quarter mile across the field. And I can remember the explosion. I almost jumped out of bed. It was
Harmon's brother, Fletcher Gouge, lived next door. He pulled Pauline out of the wreckage and drove her to the hospital. Another neighbor, Rob Nave, has the grisly task of driving the bodies of the 3 young girls.
Now, after the explosion, I came down the next morning and I remember the fuse running down through the ditch line. And the house, the toys and everything in the house. In the rafters and things.
The tragedy attracted national news. Around 6,000 mourners came to the First Baptist Church in Elizabethton to pay their last respects. It was estimated that around 12,000 drove by the debris of the house. The girls' bodies were buried at the Gouge family cemetery. As community members mourned the senseless passing, authorities were hard at work finding clues. Sheriff J.M. Moreland ordered the arrest of Mae Tollett and Frank Thompson and close family friends Jim Greer, Clyde DeLoach, and Tom DeLoach, Bruce Pierce, and Ori Lawson. They were released a few days later after indicating several Pikeville men. On the night of her arrest, Mae had called Crave Tollett from jail. This had given the conspirators time to create alibis. Shockingly, former Bledsoe County Sheriff T.Y. Swafford said that Crave was with him the whole night. White Miller and Lee Walker were arrested on suspicion. Lee said he was visiting his parents on the night in question. Miller said he and Church Lester had gone to visit Myrtle and Walter Ferguson that day and had spent the night at Greer Hotel. Right away, Sheriff Moreland suspected corruption. Sheriff Walter Walling did not seem cooperative, and it took a call to the head of Tennessee Highway Patrol, Joe Boyd Williams, to encourage him to transport Crave Tollett to Carter County. As soon as Sheriff Walling pulled up with the prisoner, Moreland arrested them both. Walling was released 3 days later, but Crave was detained. Carter County authorities were sure he was the mastermind behind the bombing.
And he was sort of the mastermind, we think, of a lot of things that happened. But he sent his brothers to do the dirty work. He stayed out of it. He was quite a crafty person. I knew Crave all the way up until he died. In fact, my dad and Crave were big buddies. I'm sort of ashamed to say that, but they were big buddies long after this happened. They would get up and tell stories, and I'd sit with them in the stores, you know, in the old country stores, and they'd tell tall tales.
Finally, there was a break in the case. Lee Walker confessed and indicated the other conspirators. On Saturday, January 15th, deputies traveled to Pikeville to detain witnesses Carl Brown, Bill Walker, Dallas Tolley, and Howard Evans.